Surrounded by. I am surrounded by.
I'm often surrounded by.
The entire system is surrounded by
Freaking idiots.
Surrounded by
Idiots.
All right, we are here today featuring an author and TV writer whose work has appeared in the New York Times, Time, and Fortune. He's written for hit shows like HBO's Max, Rap Shit, and Freeform's Grownish, and is the author of Black Magic, What Black Leaders Learn from the Trauma and Triumph. Please welcome our guest, Chad Sanders.
Hey!
Hey!
Thank you for that intro. Where'd you get that bio, by the way?
Man, you know, I had to put something together. You know what? You know where I got a lot of it? Simon and Schuster.
Okay.
And I was like, that's fire. Like, I had only heard that name, like, you know, in literature. And it's just dope to see a brother in Simon and Schuster. I'm like, okay.
That's a fact. Amazing. It's actually crazy. It's like, I think we make up 2% of published authors in the history of the world. So, especially at the big five publishers. Sorry, that's Penny. Stop, Penny. And I just, before we even jump in, I'm not doing it while we're talking. This is the book, How to Sell Out. It is available for pre-order right now at tinyurl.com/Chad Sand. We're probably going to talk about it, but I don't want to just be like the pseudo plugger the entire conversation. So that's out the way, man. I appreciate you having me, bro.
Man, no problem. Well, we'll get into it's funny, you came across my radar when I saw your reel about Black projects and what's being made. And so we're definitely gonna dive into that too. Sure. But yeah, man, like what's the story? How did you find a love for literature and where'd that come from?
Wow, man, nobody's ever asked me that. And the answer is it was literally handed to me. I grew up in a house full of books. Nice. My dad is a lawyer. My mom was a business executive for 30 years at Verizon. My older sister is an author. Like, we were a book family, just books stacked on top of every surface, bookshelves everywhere in the house. And we were it's ironic that I became a TV writer because we weren't really allowed to watch TV like that. Like that,
I know.
One of the rules was like 30 minutes of TV a night. And so every day, every night, my parents would come sit on the foot of the bed and read us a book until we were old enough to read, which was pretty young. And then books like, the autobiography of Malcolm X, The Souls of Black Folks, The People Could Fly, or is it The People Had Wings? I don't know, whatever. Not whatever, but all the I'm sitting in front of my tiny little bookshelf now, and all you can see on it is my own books. But I promise y'all, there's stacks of books in this office as well. Like, we were just book people, and I was the least literate of the four of us. Like, I read the fewest books of everybody, but even that was still kind of a lot. So, it's just in the DNA, really. Yeah, man.
Okay, that's so dope. My mom is the same way, like avid reader, and like reads everything she can get her hands on, and it definitely makes a difference in your upbringing. It definitely makes a difference. And even one of my rules was for how long I practice the piano or how long I read, then I could like play the game.
Yes,
like so it wasn't like you're not just in front of the TV like that.
Right, right. And you had to kind of like, I sometimes describe my upbringing as, it was almost like there was a ropes course element to it. It was like, you got to pass this checkpoint to this checkpoint to this checkpoint to get your 30 minutes of TV. If you want to play Super Nintendo or N64, you got to do this, and this. And also, I don't want to not say this. I'm sure everybody says this to you every time you meet somebody, but I literally just rewatched The Wire like 2 weeks ago, right before you reached out. And just such a huge fan of like the story you guys told in that show, and of you, man. Like, you had your character getting sent to that boarding school has stuck. It was not a boarding school. It was a
group home.
It was a group home.
Yeah,
like, has stuck with me since I watched that show. So anyway, but
thank you, brother. Yeah. No, that means a lot. It really means a lot, man.
Yes,
it's funny. I always tell people when we were doing it, at that age, we didn't know what we were making. We all weren't privy to the show because we weren't grown watching The Wire every week. Right. So,
which is crazy.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing to see how it panned out, and then even for myself years later to really go back and watch, like, damn, it's really all connected.
Yeah.
Like, like
Yeah.
that's not just a piece of like, wow. And then
It
also,
is.
as I've gotten older, gotten a little bit more well versed in what's happening in the world, society, all those kinds of things. A lot of those things trickle down, and you start to connect even other dots, and you're like, oh, this
Absolutely.
is these games are all parallel.
Right. And and
You know,
and even to the question you just asked, hold on, let me get Penny.
no problem.
Penny, please. When this book blows up, I'll get a full-time Penny. Come here. Come here, Penny. Come here, Penny.
Penny said, I'm on my own time.
She knows I'm tied up too.
Ah.
Smart dog. Penny, get over here, man. Here. There's the dog.
She's
All right, get out of here. Ow, 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 ow.
like, what you doing?
Right, exactly.
What you doing?
Sorry about that.
Nah, you're good, bro.
So, I mean, even to the question you just asked, how did you find a love of books? Like these things that we take for granted, like what zip code you're born into, what's in your house. It wasn't until I was an adult that I thought back on my friends' houses and realized there are no books there. Sometimes there was no food in the fridge. Sometimes the TV was the only thing watching us the whole time I was there. And you don't even have an appreciation for the ways that like wires your brain in different
Yeah.
ways until you start to grow up and it plays out and you realize like, oh, you're an artist because you were consuming art all the time, versus
Right.
maybe you don't have that same gene because you were just consuming whatever was placating you on cable TV all day, every day, basically.
And it's the discipline too. I mean, it's like how you said, like everything in your house, and when you're a kid, I know it. Trust me, I had the same thing. It sucks, but it's like
Yeah,
everything
sure.
feels like a checkpoint. You can't do this unless you do this. That. But then you realize they're just training you for life because
Right.
that's life. You can't do this unless you do this. So you need to go sit down, knock that out, so then you can get this done, and then you can move on and move forward. And I think those kinds of things, like you said, in households that don't have that kind of structure,
Yeah.
it just is, it's kind of a free for all. And some people find it and then others don't. And if you don't have that push to find it, and even little things like with literature, it's like certain, even in life, just references
Right.
or like, I've realized a lot of my friends who haven't read as many books or whatnot, and I'm not gonna sit here and act like I've read a ton of books, but
Right.
still
But
just the
right.
fact of
Right.
just knowing where certain references come from, or like when people say like Orwellian things and you're like, oh, that's from it's 1984, right? Or
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
1984.
Or
Yeah,
Orson. Yeah. Whatever. Cut it
yeah,
out
but
if I get his name wrong. But yes.
yeah, you know what
Orson
I mean.
Welles? Is that who wrote that? Yeah. Something like that.
Yes, Orson Welles, I
Yeah.
think.
Right.
Yeah. And so it's one of those things, like even those little pieces.
Right.
They're like culture,
Yes.
but they're small pieces of culture, and also all these different authors who come from different backgrounds.
Right.
It's a little piece of their culture throughout all of it. So it's cool.
Yeah. And I would say those little ways of the little pieces of the ways we communicate tell other people if we speak the same language, which tells them how to treat us.
Mm,
I'm certain that you and I could probably have this conversation, walk into another room and have a different conversation, walk into a barbershop, have a different conversation,
yep,
and we would be using three different languages that would be telling the people in the room uh, we're from the same tribe, and that tells them how to treat you. And again, that's something that I took for granted until I got older, and
mhm,
especially working in Hollywood, man. Like it is so determinant. Like people will talk right over your fucking head if they think that you're not sharp, and they will literally
yeah,
talk about you with you in the room as though you are an item or an animal. And if you can't pick up quickly on what's being said in front of you, like you're on the menu, definitely.
100%. And they don't expect you to know.
Right. Oh yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
especially when you're one of the few in the room, it's, I've even heard with a lot of actors when they're doing certain deals, and it's, even high level black actors, but it's
Right.
like they're the one black person on the show.
Right.
Yeah, like they don't expect them to play the deal like the lead.
Yeah.
You know what
That's
I mean?
right.
He's supposed to just take what he's given and be happy and keep it pushing. And
Yeah.
it's a very different, yeah, it's a different animal.
It is. I saw what was this thing I saw? Oh, there was the New York Times piece about the Oscar-winning producers, or it was about producers having a hard time finding work right now because everybody has a
Right.
hard time finding work right now, and it was zeroing in specifically on like even the most celebrated, most accoladed, Oscar-winning producers are having a hard time finding work, and I thought it was ironic that that was the hook of the piece because in some ways, the more accolades you have, the more you are a stretch on the budget. And
Pricing yourself
you're
out.
pricing yourself out. And someone who's looking at a spreadsheet is like, wait, we're paying how much to this producer? And they're not even going to be on screen. They're not even going to direct it. It's just a name that's going to sort of, in an amorphous way, have this, maybe this artistic or taste impact on the film. Like, we're not paying for that. Let's go find somebody for a third of that.
We're not even going to take this to a movie theater.
Right.
So
Exactly.
what we doing all this
What are we
for?
doing, man? Are we here to exactly? Yeah. And frankly, like I find and I think you would have even a better perspective on this because you've been in the business since you were a kid. But I'm finding that, I've been in it for 7 years or so. And when I first got into this, it was just booming. It was like anything I wrote, I knew I could sell it. There's checks flying all over the place. There's money flying. There's first look deals being announced every other week. And you see these names getting 100 million here, 100 million there.
Yeah.
And that seems to have dried up. And it looks like for the first time since I've been in this business, Hollywood is being treated like an actual business now. It's not just like this crazy nonstop water flow of speculative money. It's like, wait, how are we actually going to get our money back on this bet?
Yeah, no, and that's what it is. That's why they only want to make the Marvel movies, the Star Treks, like if it's not an IP, we can't bank on it.
Right.
And then I feel like so when I came out here in '09, and I've been doing it even prior,
Yeah.
obviously. Yeah, man. Like you got to remember, like the era I came up in, like I was doing the Jay Leno show, I was doing Maury, I was doing like
Wow.
these were that was the game. And then
Right.
doing Jay Leno and doing some commercials with Michael Jordan got me my own TV show. And then I had my own TV show on UPN. And then I
Right.
went from that and then off TV for a little bit, did some theater, did The Lion King, did all that, then popped back, came back with The Wire, and then went from The Wire, so yeah, it was different.
Right.
Like even when I came here in '09, it was different.
Yeah.
Like I was working on multiple shows, doing a lot of stuff. I feel like like you said, the industry, first off, the internet changed everything. I remember when I first got out here, I was still getting Netflix DVDs because some of them, some of the movies,
Get out.
the streaming, everything wasn't on streaming yet.
Right.
It wasn't
Right.
like that yet.
It was coming
So-
the box. You would go get it from the Netflix box. Yeah.
Yeah, or not the Netflix box. They would remember Netflix was the one they ship it to your
and
house.
You would send it back. Yeah. Yes.
Send it back.
That's a fact.
That's how I saw The
Crazy.
Shining.
Oh,
This
crazy.
is how, yeah. But literally, I was doing it like that. So I realized, okay, there was still a blockbuster. There was
Right.
still tangible media. I feel like it's almost like music. Once we realized all the media can be streamed,
Mhm.
and then once the streaming got really good, where you're getting, we're talking 2014, 15, this probably really started happening.
Right.
Things started changing. Now you still had your box office movies. People were still into going to the movies. But around, 2020 really kind of did that in.
Right.
But I think it started to be like, why am I going to the movies to see that?
Right.
Because
Right.
I have the greatest thing ever in my hand,
Right.
where I can see anything I want to see it. It doesn't have to be a big movie. It could be a YouTube video. It could be anything. So
Yeah.
I think now they're in a space where they're trying to restructure the industry because there's no more. We're not paying you $25 million to be the star of our movie. Like we can't.
Right.
There's
we don't
not
have
enough
it.
money.
Yeah.
We don't
have the
it.
backing for it. Can I ask you a question? Like,
Yeah.
So, by the way, were you in The Lion King here on Broadway? I'm in New York.
Not on Broadway. I did in Chicago at the Cadillac Palace.
Okay, that show is
Yeah.
phenomenal. That show is so incredible.
It is such I remember the first time I saw it, and they got me tickets to see it, and the animals came down, and I was in all. I
That
was like,
is
I
incredible.
want to do this.
Yeah,
I want to
okay.
do this.
That's fire. That congratulations. That's so cool.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
So okay, so like, all right, you moved to Hollywood in 2009, but you've been in
Mhm.
the business since I'm guessing like
Nine, no,
2099,
90, 96.
96. Wow. So
Yeah, 95, 96.
like you just very well, I think, summarized the technological changes of the business over that span and how they have affected the economics of it. How aware have you been? Like, I even seeing that you're doing this, right? Digital
Mhm.
media, podcasting. You have a social presence where you like. I can tell like you're plugged into this in a way that I think, frankly, a lot of people in the industry are ducking their head in the sand. They're not doing these. They're not making these steps. They're just
Mhm.
hoping and praying that this thing turns back around. But like you look on top of it now, were you like aware of what was happening while it was happening, or did something click and you were like, oh shit, I need to get in front of this?
Ah, wow, that's a great question. I think it came down to me being like, wait a minute, this isn't sustainable. And
Hmm.
I think I started to realize that even in just like y- the dips. And I'll tell you what changed it all. Social media. Social media changed it all because then I started making friends with people who I saw were getting a lot more money,
Mm,
a lot more opportunity. Not
mm.
all of them grasp it, but
Yeah,
boy, is the
it's there.
opportunity there.
Right.
It's there. And tons of money just off Facebook and things like that. And I'm like, wait a minute, like you're making more than people who are on TV and who spend 8 hours of their day doing this.
Right.
Like a full 8 to 12 hours of sitting on a set, and
Right.
you're gonna either shoot a sketch or a brand deal in 30 minutes.
Right. You're like this.
Like, literally, like,
Yep.
yeah, hey man, make sure y'all get that. Like, whoa. So that was and then when I started seeing, you know, certain influencers get into the acting space,
Right.
and they start to be, you start to see the shows like, Blackish is one thing, Grownish is another thing.
Right.
See
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So when you start to get those kinds of things, you're like, oh, you're not even really looking for,
Right. Right.
no,
Bro,
okay.
as a quick, related like I was my first writing job was I just was in the writer's room for Grownish for a week. And it was the first season of Grownish, and we were gonna go in there and write episode 4.
Mhm.
And you walk in, and the first thing I see in the room is a it's a character on the show. It's a poster of a kid that looks like me, Luca Sabat, and I'm
Uh,
like, and I'm like, wait, how did he get? And the answer is he has a huge Instagram following. Like he
yeah.
built up, and that was, and I'm sure he probably had to. No disrespect to him, I'm sure he worked at it and had to go and
Yeah, but
audition. But like,
he built, no, listen, he has a thing going. He's relevant asses seats.
yeah, there you go.
There you go. Like, and,
Right.
and I think it's that simple. And so something about there's one thing I always hated about, and as much as I love this industry, I always hated the thought process of, man, I'm waiting for somebody to call me.
Man, what
Now,
the
I
fuck?
started so young. It didn't hit me the same way,
Right.
because I still got school, I still got whatever, all that kind of stuff. But once you start to hit that as an adult, and
Mm,
I start to just look at the other things I know I want in life, the other things, I go, wait a minute. So you're telling me I can't take my kid to Disney World if you don't call me to go do it? Like, that's Six Flags is off the table this year.
right.
No, like I get no. So what are things I can do? Because one thing I will say about a lot of these people who are on the influencer side, or yeah, relevant, just relevancy side.
Sure.
Yeah, a lot of them don't necessarily, um, they're not all going to have the chops to do X, Y, and Z. They're not all going to have the opportunities. But I'm angry at every actor I see who's not taking advantage of having their own channel. If no one will hire you for their channel, well, you
Right.
should make your own and make
Yeah.
sure people know what you're doing and you stay relevant through something that you're building and at least you have ownership of.
That's right. You were on a Disney Channel show. You have 250,000 people sitting there waiting for you to talk to them on your walkie-talkie, and instead you're calling your agent every day like, "Hey, I want to go on TV so I can have an audience." You have an audience.
And if you tap into that audience, they'll actually pay you right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think like there's some I, I think this shift is happening, but I might be too close to it to really know. But it feels like the desperation of the moment is making people divest from the prestige that they put in. I have to be in a theatrical release movie, or I have to be on an HBO show or a Netflix show, or else it's not sexy, or else it's not like. I think hopefully people are starting to get more comfortable with the idea that like you in your kitchen doing this, that you're good enough just like that to communicate with somebody who really wants to hear from you. A real
Right.
fan is going to be good with this. They're going to want to hear your voice. They're going to want to see your face. They're still going to want to be like you. They want to see what you look like with no makeup on. They want to see what you look like. And I don't think there should be anything less prestigious about doing it like this than going on set and being, and shooting for 3 months with a big name director and then
Right.
waiting 3 years for your movie to come out personally. And
Right.
yeah. So,
But you know what it is? It's the cosigns. It's the cosign that, well, I'm in something it's just like when people tell you about a project. Like no one starts it off and go, man, no, it's a really good movie about blah, blah. No, I just got a new movie with Bruce Willis.
right.
It's
Right.
like we got it, and Ridley Scott's directing. And like we need that carte blanche, because then it tells people it's valuable. It's
Yeah.
like looking at a song. If it doesn't have 350 million streams next to it, maybe I won't click that one.
Right. But
It's
yeah,
the stamp of it's all this whole game is a stamp of approval.
it
And
is.
that's it.
It is. But I think coming into it, like, and I know part of how that is disseminated as the messaging is you go in a fucking pitch meeting, and the first thing you start reading off, or your agent does, is like, who's attached? Where are the
Right.
stamps? Like, we need name brands attached to this thing. And that might be so if you're trying to get somebody to give you $20 million to make 10 episodes of a first season, or $20 million to make a feature film. But like, you don't need any cosigns for your 10,000 followers. Like,
Oh no.
you,
But
and that's where
it's
they
work.
got us confused. Yeah.
But it's work. And I think that's another thing. A lot of people don't do it because when they start doing it, they realized how much work it actually is.
That's right.
It's not just, and I'm not saying it's easy to just, learn, some pages and go in front of but I'm gonna tell you, that's not as much of an all day job
Right.
as how am I going to build the business of me? And
Right.
that was even my thought process. How do I build the business of Maestro?
Mm,
Like, because I keep wanting all these people to get in the business with Maestro, right?
right.
So then why don't I just build the business that they all want to be a part of?
And
Because oh,
let me
sorry.
ask you about that, because that lifts up a hood that is really a black box to people.
Mhm.
I'm, and I'll quickly contextualize it by saying, like, the first thing I did when I came into this business as a aspiring TV show creator, that's how I came in, was like,
Mhm.
I started collecting all the pieces that I thought would make me look like that thing, including I ran to get signed by WME. I ran to go get, a manager, a big name lawyer. Like, I just started like trying to fill up the box with everything that would look the part.
Right.
And I still work with a lot of the aforementioned, but I am definitely like one of their rogue clients at this point. Like, I'm definitely like, I'm gonna do me, and I'm gonna call y'all when I need some help, or I'm gonna call you when I have a discrete function to ask you to do.
Mhm.
My question for you is like, and I'll tell you the reason for that is because I found that they kept trying to place me into the system that they understood. They kept trying to like drop me into like, what archetype is this? Okay, TV writer, let's just do the same machine that we do for everybody else. Every now and then we'll call him and say, hey, they're staffing this room, they're doing this. I'm like, I don't want to fucking sit in a room and write someone else's TV show. Like, I have bigger
Yes.
aspirations than that. Anyway, I want to ask you, as somebody who has been in it for 20 something years, I don't even know how
Yeah.
many,
A good 25, 26. Yeah.
25,
Yeah.
like, who has helped you to understand or to even build the business of you? Like, who's helped you to not just do it like everybody else?
Man, honestly, just it's really I I don't want to take all. I know that I'm influenced by a lot of people, just by people I see who take that leap.
Mhm.
But That's just me being stubborn, man.
Yeah.
Like it's me sitting on enough sets, being fortunate enough to, you know, do some bucket list things, work with some bucket list people,
Right.
and go, oh, I'm more valuable than how they than the game they're playing for
Right.
me. Like, you know what I mean? I'm more like you even said, it's like, oh yeah, so like how many more times y'all gonna send me, you know, guest stars for crime shows? Like, yeah, like I can't do that no more. I
Right.
can't. I got to move forward with something. And you know what? And if they want me to do it, tell them, send me an offer,
Right.
because
Exactly.
I got enough tape of that shit. I
Yeah.
got plenty of. I
Right.
got game footage of
Right.
that shit. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think it's just having, you know, a really supportive family who, whenever I'm like, all right, I got to make a pivot, they understand.
Wow.
And yeah, honestly, man, I think it's really me just being stubborn and being like, nah, like I got as I'm looking at how the world's going, I'm looking at, even, you know, I do a lot of voiceover work, and, you know, knowing how AI would affect that. I make music, seeing how AI has affected that,
Right.
looking at all these different details. It's like, I always make the metaphor. I'm like, if you're, you know, bagging groceries or you doing checkout counter
Mm.
and you see the first self checkout and it don't alarm you,
Right.
that's on you.
You're dead inside.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you're
You're
not
dead
paying
inside. You're not thinking.
attention.
Yeah, I see that and I go, all right, I'm gonna work here for the next year, but I'm gonna stack this money. I'm on my way out.
Bro, but like that's how I feel when I see people saying survive till 25. I'm like, just because it rhymes, like that doesn't mean anything. Like what do you like? You don't want any more information than just a fucking slogan, a hashtag?
You know we love a good rhyme.
Like what the fuck? Like survive till 25. What about 25? 25 is like 3 months from now. What about that is gonna be different than this?
Survive till 25, and hopefully you alive.
And hopefully you will thrive. But I doubt it. I doubt it. Like, and so okay, I'm glad that you said the truth, which is like
Mhm.
you figured it out, because I think that the Hollywood version of what someone would say to that is like, oh, I have a great team of like this person and that person, this person. And
Oh, let
it's
me
not
tell
to
you,
say that
my
you
team. I know, no, I'm gonna tell you right now, just full and
don't.
list.
Please.
Team is me. Team is me, and I say the closest people to me, my parents, my family, but like, and they, because, you know, everything I did as a child, that's all
Right.
my dad maneuvering. You know
Right.
what I mean? So it's like, but the team is me. Like, yes, I have an agent. You know,
And, right.
I've had managers. It was one of those situations where I'm like, look, I'm trying. Every time I would go into a meeting, I'm like, hey, look. So I'm just like, I don't think that we're gonna just get me some audition and I'm gonna go into the room and then I'm gonna be some big movie star. I was
Right.
like, I don't really think that's how this works. I was like, I think the way that this works is, look at all these attributes I have. I do this, I do that. How can we make me a part of more projects?
Right.
Even if it's not only in this capacity. These people have no vision. They don't know. If it's
No.
not boiling hot right now,
Exactly.
I can't help
I
you.
can't help you. And I think, like, I'll say, at least I'll speak for myself.
Mhm.
I thought that a career in this industry was so much more of a team effort. And I thought it was so much more like the Warriors. You pass the ball, you move, you get a good shot. And from what I can tell, it's a lot more like being Russell Westbrook. It's a lot more like you got to get the rebound, you got to dribble that shit up court, and you got to fucking dunk that shit, or else it's not going in the basket. Like you
Literally.
might, if you drop them, if you drop like a dime for a layup and it's right under the basket, they'll lay it in. But
For sure.
otherwise, like forget about
Well,
it.
you know, but you know what? So the first problem with that, if we're really getting to it, the first issue with that is, I think that it was more of that team effort. And then I think the internet, just like streaming, it fucked us up, because we were able to see like tangible, like, no. 400,000 people like
Right.
her.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? It's a whole different game. Like,
Yeah.
now I can attach to who I want to attach to. It made the, you know, the manager, it made their job easier. I
Right.
can see what's hot. I can court what's hot. And then that's what I'll do.
I can quote with
A&Rs
that.
did the same thing. That's
Hell yeah.
all. That's the whole game now. But it's frustrating because there are so many talented people out here who, and you know, I know so many of them, and it's just like, all right, like, man, like you said, it's the same as like growing up in a different kind of environment. It's like, damn, if you just had like that one little piece, like you
Right.
got the rest.
Right.
But then it's the bullshit of navigating how to find those people. And very few of these, I'm sure there's some good ones out there, and I'm sure there's some real, but let's be real. Every manager I've ever talked to, every agent I've ever talked to, they sound exactly the same on the phone. They say the exact same shit. Like it's to the point where it's like, wait, why is it this way?
Right.
Like, why have I really never had somebody who's like, yeah, man, I honestly, I think it's some bullshit, but hey, what are we gonna do, right? We called the guy, we did, but it never feels like, it always is like yeah, well, I'm just calling, they're big fans, and or I only get a call from you motherfuckers if it's two things: I was really close on something and I didn't get it, or I got it.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's email.
Oh yeah. And even that, like, that call to say you didn't get it is such a courtesy. Like, I wrote for the show Rap Shit, right?
Mhm.
And a couple months went by after the first season came out. I'm doing like events, like putting on like a watch party,
Right.
promoting the show. Like, not, I don't have a billion followers, but like I have an audience, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, I was making sure that all of them were watching it and supporting it, whatever. Like, I was part of, I was a writer on the show. I wanted to support it. And it's like all the team building and kumbaya stuff in the room, of course, like, yeah, we're all in this together, yada yada. And like, I started hearing that they were staffing the second season of the show looking for someone who, I'll say in so many words, fits my profile, I guess is how I put it.
Wow.
And I mean, and like, more power to them. Like, it is what it is. It was a situation I was gonna probably walk away from anyway, because it was taking up a lot of my time to be on a Zoom writer's room for 8 hours or whatever, 6 hours a day.
Yes.
At that time, while I was still really touring and promoting my first book. But I would have liked a phone call from somebody, anybody, one of the other people in the writer's room, my showrunner, the executive producers, anybody, somebody to just be like, bruh, you're fired. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I've been fired before. Like, it wasn't good, but it's not even about, it has nothing to do with like the human element of it. It's literally just like, you are the smallest piece of this machine, and the machine doesn't need you anymore. Fuck off. Like, that's it. Like, there's nothing else to it. And to that point, I'm the same to my agency. Like, and I'm so happy to hear you say the true answer is you figured this shit out, because it just occurred to me in the last probably year while writing this book. Like, if you're going to make the impact that you want to have in this business that goes beyond this business, like, it is in some ways a single player game. And you can do it. It's not like rocket science, but you got to just literally press the buttons.
Yeah, and also what I think that's another piece of it too. What game do you want to play?
Right.
Because that's a whole other wormhole. Like, yeah, sure, you can go down the route that they have set for you and play that game, and you can win. You can win big. You can make a lot of money, good money. And you'll never have a thought of your own again.
Yeah, facts.
And that's what that is.
Yeah, or one
And
day you will snap, because you are contorting yourself in a way that your body doesn't go every day to be who they want you to be. And then one day you will be watching Chris Rock give an Oscar speech or present an award. He will say something that hurts your feelings, and you will fucking snap. And that's what I think I saw in front of me was this dude did it the way they wanted him to the whole time, and then he fucking snapped.
He said, man, I gotta
he blacked out. Like,
man. And that was why else though? It's a tough week. When you look at all the factors,
yeah,
that's a tough week to have all these great things. You finally getting yours. But everybody, while you getting yours, is like, August Alsina.
Right?
Like, and then Chris, you want to
do that. It's like you can't.
You'll snap.
But that's why you can't even, like, and I'm telling this to myself. I hope I'm not preaching to anyone listening to this, but it's like, that's why you can't actually let the shit into your boat. Like you can't actually let it in because it will sink the boat. If you
Right.
really think these people who follow you, who like what you do, if you think that's love, you will snap because
Oh yeah.
that shit
Yeah.
will turn around on you in a second.
Oh well, I mean, let's be real. We see what's happening right now with Puff. He's never had. I mean, vote or die, right? Like people, we
Right. He was
Puff.
the
What are you
one trying to talk Kanye off the ledge about
talking?
being MAGA. Like,
Listen, like and then you see how this shit. So what I'm saying, we seen, and then unfortunately, you see it also with people like Jonathan Majors, and we see it with listen, bro, like it's once again, that's one pathway you could take, and I think
exactly.
that's another thing I started seeing once cancel culture started hitting a certain groove. I
Right.
was like, oh, this business isn't sustainable because here's the problem. Everyone's done something wrong in their life, and then it's all about who they want to get.
I think, yeah, I mean, I think this is where I'm at with that. Like,
That
justice.
is not an endorsement for Puff, by the way. That was just saying
No,
in
hell
general.
no. No, it
No,
wasn't, it
no,
wasn't that
no,
at
no.
all. My sister this morning was like, "Are you gonna make a reel about Diddy?" And I was like, "No,
Nah,
no."
no.
I was say I'm gonna I have nothing unique or creative or interesting to say about that besides
Same.
like this is dark. I feel sad for anybody who's a victim of. I don't even want to do it. Anyway, where I'm at on like this is what's so I really do think the white boys have realized unless my crime is extremely heinous, like pedophilia,
Yeah,
sexual assault in a really, I mean, like it has to really be provable. Like they have realized, Joe Rogan has realized this. Uh, what's the man's name? Andrew Schultz has realized this, et cetera, et cetera. As long as there is a community of people who like what I'm about and who see themselves in me, which there will always be if you are a white guy with any amount of creativity or talent, I am uncancelable. Like I will like
yeah.
what's the dude the comedian, he's so famous. I don't know why I can't remember his name, but he like jerked off in front of some people. He went low for a few years and he's back. He's like
Oh, Louis C.K.
Louis
Yeah,
C.K., right? Like
yeah.
as long as there is a community of people who love what I do because of my ability to distribute directly, I'm uncancelable.
Boom, and
Like
and
who,
that's what they figured out. They
and
said
and
I can
they
send the
figured
shit
it
straight
out,
to you.
and God forbid they spread the word too far, or shit's going to get really bad because like no one can turn their lights off. Like no one can. So
And listen, brother, exactly what you said. And it's funny because Joe Rogan was definitely one of the archetypes. I said,
yeah,
oh, he just got out the game
yeah,
and just went and made his own game.
yeah. He did.
And it's something about that. It's something about you can't turn my lights off.
You cannot.
You know what I mean? And that's I like the feeling of that. Now, like obviously I want to be doing something good with those lights
Right.
on,
Right.
but just
Yeah.
saying it is a way to take things into your own hands.
Yes.
Like, let's be real. Even with stand-up comedy, Joe Rogan was never the biggest stand-up comedian.
No.
No, people know him from Fear Factor,
Yeah.
and that's what that is. But you know something? He said, "I want to have a seat at that table too." So what did he do? He went and built his own comedy club. So you know what? I don't have to play those games they want me to play over at the Comedy Store.
And
It's
yeah.
you know,
And
it's
I
just that
think
thought process.
like you said it, it's like everybody has the opportunity now. No matter like there's somebody listening to this right now with 20 followers and they're like, you say that, but that's because you're this far away from where I'm at. Well, I am way further away from where you're at than where Joe Rogan's at. So like
Right.
it's all a matter of perspective. And everybody has the opportunity now to pick up their walkie-talkie and talk to their audience. And you said it, like the question is like, are you going to actually do something meaningful with that connection? Like, are you
Yes.
going to make something better in this world? Or are you going to make something shitty? Are you going to make something that plays to the lowest common denominator and just is more trash on the net? Like,
Yeah.
but like, if you feel any modicum, and I always felt this way, if you feel like I used to be like, man, if I went on the Breakfast Club, I would say this. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
if I went on this thing, dog, you have the Breakfast Club right here. You have it. You can do it. You just gotta like call your own number on it. You gotta greenlight yourself.
That's how this is how this started. It was me going, I was like, what's one thing that technology can't take away from me? And I'm like, my perspective.
Right.
Me talking to people. Even if we weren't I would have conversations like we're having right now just in my kitchen all the time.
Yeah.
And then it started being like, damn, this is kind of like, this could have been content, man. This could have been a podcast. I know. And then I started being like, you know what? I got to just start. I got to just start, and I got to not be scared to say the shit I'm thinking, which is a whole other game, as you know, in our industry. So I think those two things, though, have put me just getting started and just being like, you know what, I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to interview people I want to interview, people who I think might have a cool perspective, or even if they disagree with me, they got strong facts or strong details of why, and we can have a conversation.
Right.
Like, it's, and like you said, it's, you have your own Breakfast Club on your phone. So all you want to do is, why people always want to be in these situations. I always say it this way. Why the fuck are you there to begin with? So you want to be on the Breakfast Club. That's cool. Why you think you on the Breakfast Club?
Right.
Why? Because somebody gave you a job that worked out and now you're doing XYZ and you're doing it. No. What did you, it's better when you build something and then you go take your thing on there.
Absolutely. And I want to give away like what I think is a freebie, which is which cost me money to figure out, which is every podcast, every platform like this. I was doing this with a show that I self-produced for a year, Nothing But Anarchy. You do your show for an hour, and then you leave, and somebody, either an editor, yourself, AI, somebody cuts that up into little tiny pieces and distributes them on a social platform. Like, I would venture to say 99% of the time when somebody sees that clip, that's all they're going to see of the episode. That's what they think of as your show. Most people are not going to go to your YouTube channel and listen to the full hour or watch the full hour.
Ever.
That's all it is. So, and I took this pill myself recently because I was spending a few $1,000s a month producing that show, and I didn't want to use all that money. I need that money to market my book. I'm like, I'm just going to do the best 1 minute that would have been every show, and those are going to be my reels. And because of those reels, I'm now sitting here. I told two people to do that 6 months ago, two people who I knew who were just starting at the beginning, who I was like, yo, there's two ladies that I went to college with, and they have a lot of stuff going on in their own lives. So I'm like, I don't think they had time for it. But I was like, y'all are funny. Y'all are smart. Y'all have a unique personality. It would be so cool if y'all just did like 45-second TikTok videos together and use them to promote a podcast that you can get around to making when you feel like it. But just distribute the clips. And, again, I think it's like people get attached to the idea of, I got to make something so big. I got to make something, it has to represent me. It has to be so perfect and so prestigious and so long in duration and all this other shit. And it's like, not really, man. People are swiping between 20 seconds of content, if that. That's all you got to give them. Yeah.
Facts. No, you are completely right about that. Like, I know people all the time. They're like, "Yeah, watch your stuff all the time." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know you watch the clips,
You watch the clips on my Instagram.
That's it,
But frankly, that serves you so much. I'm sure that they share those clips. You get new followers from that.
Oh yeah,
and now all of a sudden, you got more people to sell shit to. Like, that's it.
That's the name of the game.
Yeah. So,
what were you gonna ask? You were gonna ask something?
Oh, I was gonna say, do you do a lot of direct to consumer selling? Like, do you sell shit?
I not as much as I probably should. So I sell the wire hoodies. I got some wire hoodies and tees that I just do on some nostalgia because cool. And then that's really it. I don't really have like a course or anything that I like sell or I haven't really figured that out yet. But I would like to figure out a way to make to do something special with the podcast or like episodes that could be either Patreon or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's hard. I think that was the other even thing with entertainment as a whole. I started to realize I was like, man, it's not much for tangible products. Like, like it's a whole lot of ideas and shit.
Yeah.
Like this doesn't exist until we do it.
This whole
And it
thing,
doesn't exist
right.
until we edit it.
This whole thing exists so that Coke can rent or pay for 30 seconds to sell
Thank you.
sugar water. Like,
That's it.
but now,
That's all it's
that's
for.
why where my mind at is where somebody asked me, like, are you still going to do TV and film? Someone asked me that on Instagram, like in the question. And my thought was, I'm probably always going to have the artistic impulse to want to tell stories that way.
Mhm.
But like as a business, like I need to, like I'm self-publishing a children's book next month, and I'm going to do that publishing with right next to the publishing for my nonfiction book for this bad boy right here, How to Sell Out, available right now on pre-order everywhere. Simon & Schuster's the publisher. But I'm going to do those two processes side by side, and I'm going to really pay attention to like, okay, what I mean, sorry when y'all hear this, Simon & Schuster, but like, what can Simon & Schuster offer me in terms of making this book a success that I can't do myself with my own self-published on Amazon KDP? I wrote all the words, found an illustrator, paid her $3,000. Like, what can they do for me that I can't do for myself? Because if the answer is nothing, then the next thing you're going to see me doing is selling sugar water, selling pharmaceuticals, selling like
right.
Fuck
that's
it.
where the money. That's where the money's at. Like that, and that's the craziest part when you start to realize that as you get older, you're like, oh, right. Like it's the tangible things. Like I look at things now and I go, I almost feel like it would be cooler than seeing myself on TV would be like seeing like, oh yeah, you see that commercial? My production company produced that.
Yes.
Or the product that's there, and I'm like, oh yeah, I got 15% of that. I got 20, or it's mine. Whatever it is, it's like that's cooler because I'm like, yeah, we're spending ad dollars during the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
a different level of ownership, and that was, and this ties exactly into what we're talking about. Even when you were in your reel, you were saying how you pitch shows and they want you to simplify it for for the Black community.
Oh yeah.
And it's like I think that's an issue in what they're selling in general.
Yeah.
Also in between with the commercial, like our environment, usually our neighborhoods, our environment, you see what they're selling, even in the music, you see what they're selling us.
Yeah, I'll be specific. If you can give me I'll tell that story. I'll make it concise. Like, so I quit my job in technology, right? I was working at Google for 4 years, then I worked at a startup for a couple years. Quit cold turkey. I'm like, I want to be a writer. Meet Spike Lee. I would go into the details of all that, but it's just gonna make the story long. Spike Lee reads a TV pilot that I had written, and he's like, let's go. I'm taking this out with you. And he made all this stuff happen. He's made all these meetings happen that I had been begging, chasing my agents down for months at this point to try to get these meetings set up. He makes them. He writes them down on a cue card. He's like, strong move to the hoop. That's what he wrote. Netflix, Amazon, HBO. Puts me on a first class flight to Hollywood. My first class flight, all that. Takes me to Hollywood, and we pitch it to all the big streamers. Everybody says no, thank you. This is like 2 months before he shoots Black Klansman. So he's not hot at this time, right? And that was my first lesson, was like, oh, this business is literally, like you said, it's about who is piping hot right now. Doesn't even matter if you have a track record of 30 years. Who's sizzling right this second?
Last year is as far back as we want to go.
That's as far back as we remember. Like, who are you again? So they all say no. I end up making a BET meeting happen. Actually, my business partner, Aronde, makes it happen at this point, right? Also is Idris Elba's manager.
Okay.
He makes a BET meeting happen. I go and pitch it by myself without Spike, and they want to buy it. I take the deal to Spike, and he immediately, out the gate, this is the day before Christmas Eve, he's like, I can't do it. They're going to fuck up my quotes. It's BET. They're going to ruin my quote. Like, I can't do it for cheap. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, I'll do it by myself without Spike. I didn't even think they would want me without Spike, but they do. They're like, all right, cool, let's do it. We get into development. I'm writing scripts. They're giving me notes. And all the notes if I really chisel the notes down, they all come back down to make this more simple, make this more basic, make the characters more caricaturized. There was supposed to be like a toxic love interest, which was a white girl to the black character who was the main character. They're like, no, change that. People aren't going to want to see this. Black women aren't going to want to see this black dude with this white girlfriend. It's like and the whole point was I was trying to say something about interracial couples, something that was provocative, and they maybe take it all out, whatever. And they keep stripping it down, simple. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So finally I asked somebody who I think will be real with me. And the executive says to me, like, in so many words, we make TV for single moms who are cooking dinner for their families, who don't have the ability, the time, the energy to look up and follow what's happening on the television. Said it to me bare, like, dumb it down, dog, is what they were telling me. And I left that experience like, I mean, that's probably what started me down the path of writing this book. It was like, you don't actually want me to tell the story I want to tell, and you don't want people that look like me to get the story that I want to tell. You want them to drink sugar water. You want them to watch something that is so simple that challenges them in no way, so that they'll just keep the TV on and keep guzzling it down. And in the meanwhile, you can sell them McDonald's, Coke, I don't know, Ozempic, like all kinds of shit they don't need.
It's the sugar water, and then we'll sell you the stuff for the diabetes because you drink so much of the sugar water, and then it's a cycle, and we do it generation to generation.
And all the while not even owned by black people as a network.
No,
that's the part on top of all of it. Like, so that was literally my first real experience in this industry, and nothing I have seen in this industry since then has changed my perspective of like, okay, there is a drug dealing element to all of this. This is about get somebody hooked on something that's not that good for them, and then you can give them more and more and more shit they don't need.
Even to the point where when we don't know what we're going to do on season 8, we'll figure out something.
Exactly. It's like, wait, somebody in the main cast died. That's fine. We'll kill them off on the show, and
kill them off on the show.
It'll be fine.
Do like flashbacks. It'll be a flashback episode.
Yeah, man.
It's not. It's very easy for this game to make you a little jaded. It's very easy. But I do think if more creatives like really, roll up their sleeves, get digital, figure out what ways to make, because I don't see enough of like when people have ideas or scripts and stuff. A lot of times I'm like, hey, bro, like, why don't you just shoot a sizzle reel? Like, it doesn't even have to be shoot something.
I want to say that to sell that BET show, I shot one scene of it. Never shot anything before in my life. Took a couple $1,000s that I had scrapped together from when I worked in technology, hired a director who I went to college with, hired some local actors here in New York. Mm-hmm. We shot one scene, one location. It took one night. And instead of just trying to take my word for it. It's cool. It's going to look like this. It's going to look like that.
Yeah, no, you can't do that. Yeah, people don't. And I try to tell people this all the time. I'm like, it's vision. I'm like, you always got to give people. One of the first companies to ever do free samples was Coca-Cola.
Yeah, got to get them hooked.
Gotta get them hooked. And they knew. They said there was nothing like cola. Everything was like a fruity fizzy drink or something like that. Like seltzer. This was different.
Yes.
They gave away free samples.
That's fine.
That works out because because people have to see the vision. I don't know what the fuck that is. Yep. You're telling me all this. You know how many people say, oh, I can do this, I can do that. And we find out very quickly they cannot.
And if you believe in it, if you believe that what you have is dope, as I'm sure they did at Coca-Cola, it's like, just taste this. You're going to want more. Like, just, and frankly, like, that is a lot of what talking to this thing, to talk to your, like, that's what you're doing. You're saying you're going to want more. Like, let me just show you a little something of what goes on in my head. Let me show you a little bit of my personality. Like, you're going to want more. I'll give you more. Like, you're never going to run out of personality unless you fake
It's
it so
fake.
hard that you start
Yeah.
losing. Exactly.
No, bro, 100% because that's literally, like I said, what got me started down this path. I was like, hey, you can't you can only but replicate my personality so much or my thought process or how I view things. So this is something I would listen. I got to be Maestro forever anyway.
Right.
So I'd rather be able to show up places as Maestro. You know who got it figured out?
Exactly.
Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
Snoop Dogg shows up as Snoop Dogg, and
Be
Snoop
Snoop
Dogg does
Dogg.
what Snoop Dogg wants to do, and he gets paid for it.
Yeah, he
He
does.
has.
He does. I mean, the Band-Aid, because I think the Band-Aid got ripped on him so fast, so early. It was like,
Mhm.
this dude has a murder case. Like, it's impossible for him to now pretend that he is like some kind of like, smile in the camera head ass nigga. Like,
Right.
this is Snoop Dogg. Like, so
Snoop Dogg.
we had to adjust to him, like
We got acclimated to him. Yes.
instead of the other way around. And to what you're saying, because I know that the question that follows, I think you said the question that follows when someone says they're never going to be able to replicate who I am, right?
Mhm.
I think the question that follows for a lot of people right now is just wait until AI finds a way to replace or replicate your personality, your voice, your thoughts, your whatever, right? That's the fear people have.
Right.
And the way that they're framing that is like there's me over here, and then there's some machine, some studio, some big company over there that has AI that wants to replace me. And I think the part that they're missing is you, because of this technology, you can be that studio. You can be the one who decides, I'm going to use AI to do every part of this job that I hate, but I'm going to make sure that the creative part, the part that is me, I'm only using AI to distribute that part, but I remain like the source of power here. But already people are so, I mean, and it is scary. Like, I'm not trying to take that away from anybody, but like already people have such a defeated mentality about what's going to happen here. They're not even giving themselves a chance to see the way that they can be the one to use that power.
And I think a lot of that issue comes from people not being as I've gotten older, I've fallen more in love with like westerns and like the Wild West and like just seeing the story of anybody who goes somewhere that's barren and builds.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Yeah.
that's something that we're losing in today's times as far as not everybody, not Sam Altman and not the people who really making it happen,
Right.
but a lot of us have that defeatist attitude, like, oh well, what's it gonna be? Well, you know what? It's not fucking all the way there yet.
It's
So if you
not.
get
Yeah.
whatever, get in where you fit in.
Yeah.
It's like it's more of like a why aren't and not saying we all have the resources to do X, Y, and Z. I'm just saying though, where can you fit in? Where
Right.
can you invest? Whether it's time, whether it's ideas, whether it's money, whatever it is. What is the next cutting edge that you can be a part of,
Right.
opposed to being defeated by what you think's gonna happen?
Sure, like the same person who will say, and I'm talking to these people all day in my DMs, like the same person who will say, I just don't feel comfortable talking to my camera. I don't feel comfortable being in front of a camera that way. I just want to write. I just want to do this. That same person, I will say, okay, you don't want to talk to the camera. Go use AI to generate a video that you can use to say what it is that you want to say, or voiceover, whatever, like however you want to manipulate it so that you don't have to be the one talking to the camera. That same person will also say, I don't want to use AI. I want a real human. So, like, now you are pricing yourself out of being a part of the next phase of this evolution. And, like,
Exactly.
if that's how you feel, it's how you feel. But I like, it's a choice you're making. It is a choice
It,
to not adapt.
and it's not about. I mean, look, you can feel this is how I always look at it. Hey, people can feel however they want to feel. And then you know what? The dreams you have just won't happen because things are going to change. And listen, the era I come from, are you kidding me? Yes, I had my early days maybe in the beginning of being like, what am I, an
Of course.
influencer? I'm not trying to be. Yeah.
Of
And then
course.
you realize, no, that shit's stupid. You have to move with the current. What Bruce Lee say, be like water.
Be like water. Yeah.
You have to you got it there. You have to adapt. But before we get out of here, bro,
Yeah.
tell me a little bit more about the book and the premise and
This book is called How to Sell Out. If you just listen to our conversation, that's what the book's about. Like, okay, and let me be more specific. Um, I'm talking to the person who is willing to acknowledge that selling out, selling yourself, selling whatever is your special DNA is like that is how we make a living today. You sell your image, you sell your likeness, you sell your voice, you sell your creativity, you sell your skill set. Like that's how you make a living in modern society. You have a choice. You can sell it to a company that will then go make a lot of money on it, or you can sell it directly to the people who want it from you. You can sell it to the people who are then going to go buy it from Facebook, Google, Amazon, the next person. If you want a bunch of middlemen reaching their hands into your shit, by all means, do it the way you've been doing it. If you want those margins for yourself, here are some answers in this book as to how you can do that. Now, it comes with this caveat. It hurts. Like, it's not easy to sell yourself. It is uncomfortable. It means you live life without a windshield protecting you. There are people who are going to criticize you. There are people who are going to steal from you. There are people who are going, and this has been my path in Hollywood, but this can apply to a lot of different industries. Like, if you are for sale, that means you're going to be exploited in different ways. And I'm not even saying that this is the way, but if you are someone who is curious about what it looks like to do it like this book will give you that information and you can decide, do I want to take this path or do I want to stay on the path I'm on, the one that's safer, the one that's more conservative, the one that probably has less of an upside but with less risk. But you might just want the information. That's what the book is.
Man, that was a fantastic synopsis, and I
Thank you.
need to
That was
read
my
that
first
book.
time giving this synopsis.
That was great because I'm like, yeah,
Thank you.
that's all very real. You know,
Appreciate it.
one
Thank you.
side is very, has the stability, has the maybe, but like you said, you will always be getting less of an upside.
Yeah, 100%. And
Always.
sometimes people are cool with that. You know what I mean? Like there's some and I want to be clear, like the book is not for everybody. But it is for that person who sits at their desk every day and they're halfway present, but half of them is dreaming, what if I shot my shot? What if I said, fuck this, flipped my desk over and went out there and tried to be TV writer, actor,
Right.
musician, even other things, start my own company. Like, what if I said, fuck it, fuck Amazon. I'm going to go build Maestro.com, whatever.
Right.
Like, it's for that person who can't shake that dream. Like, that's who this book is for. If you're comfortable on that other side, like, go buy something else. Wrong book for you.
I love it, man.
Appreciate it, man.
Bro.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me, dog. I really appreciate it, man.
Incredible conversation, bro.
Yeah. You're fucking smart as hell, man. I'm so. All you hear is the fucking horror stories of people who start off in this business young, and I'm so like happy to meet someone who is smart and socially adjusted and not completely lost, and like who has their bearings, man. It was a pleasure. So thank you, bro.
Man, shout out to my family, but thank you, bro. Thank you so
dog.
much. And all right, we out, y'all.
All right, y'all.
Peace.